the metal door slammed shut with a force that sounded like the whole island exhaled. That was Rikers, a place where noise had weight, where every crash, every shout, every footstep reminded you that this wasn't a jail, it was a world that swallowed people whole. On a humid afternoon in early spring, a young detainee named Malik stood chained in the intake hallway, staring at a puddle of water that shimmered beneath a flickering ceiling bulb. He wasn't convicted. He wasn't sentenced. But he was already being punished. If stories like this fascinate you, hit subscribe, because this one only gets darker. Rikers Island had a reputation that didn't need exaggeration. Officers called it the city behind the city. Inmates called it the island of broken clocks, because time never moved the same way there. Minutes felt like hours, weeks felt like years. And innocence didn't mean a thing once those gates clanged behind you. Malik had arrived only 20 minutes earlier, yet he had already learned one of Rikers' cruelest truths: the place didn't wait for you to adjust. It introduced itself fast, through shouting in the corridors, through the thump of boots near the cells, through the tension that always seemed to hang just above eye level. As he stood in line, wrists raw from the cuffs, an officer with a tired face and a badge dulled by fingerprints walked by. "Heads up," someone muttered beside him. "They're doing a rush transfer from the annex. Something went down." Went down was Rikers' code for 100 different things: a fight, a stabbing, a guard being cornered, a gang flexing its presence. But whatever it was, it made the hallway feel tighter, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. A group of inmates emerged through the far door, escorted by 6 officers. Shackled, bruised, eyes cast everywhere except forward. Word traveled fast: there'd been a beating in one of the dorms. Cameras conveniently didn't catch it. Medical reports would be edited later. That was the dance, and everyone knew the steps. Malik watched them pass, and one of the older men, maybe late 40s, heavy-set, limping, glanced up for just a split second. His eyes carried something Malik immediately recognized: fear mixed with knowledge. That man had seen this before. Too many times. The intake sergeant barked orders, pushing the line forward. "You! Step up!" Malik stepped toward the metal table. The sergeant checked paperwork, barely looking up. Pending robbery charge. No priors. 19 years old. You'll be placed in Mod 3 East until classification clears. Mod 3 East. Malik didn't know it yet, but that unit had a reputation of its own: overcrowded, understaffed, and always on the brink of boiling over. A place where the lights flickered at night and the tension never turned off. As they walked him down the corridor toward the housing area, he heard the rumble before he saw the source. Voices rising. Anger swelling. Something brewing on the other side of the metal door ahead. A rookie officer whispered to the sergeant, "Should we wait for backup?" "No time," the sergeant muttered. "Just get him in and get the door shut." The door buzzed, opened an inch, and the noise rushed out like steam escaping a cracked pipe. Shouts. Metal clanging. The unmistakable rhythm of chaos forming. "Move," the officer instructed, nudging Malik forward. But before he stepped through, he caught sight of something that didn't make sense: a stretcher being wheeled down the hallway in the opposite direction. Covered in a white sheet. Surrounded by silence. No one said a word. Not the officers pushing it. Not the inmates watching from their cells. Not the sergeant whose jaw tightened as it passed. Malik froze. Rikers was known for fights, for threats, for fear, but a body under a white sheet meant something bigger. Something people whispered about but rarely acknowledged openly. Someone inside that housing unit hadn't survived the day. The officer beside him forced the door wider. "Let's go." Eyes forward. But Malik didn't step in. Not yet. Because in that moment, with chaos on one side, a stretcher on the other, and a cold gust of air crawling down the hallway, he realized something he hadn't fully understood until now: Rikers didn't just change people. Sometimes, it erased them. And as the door to Mod 3 East slowly shut behind him, sealing him inside a unit trembling on the edge of violence. He heard someone whisper behind the glass, "That wasn't supposed to happen, somebody covered it up." The door clicked. The noise grew. And Malik knew he had just stepped into a story he wasn't prepared for. The first thing Malik noticed in Mod 3 East wasn't the noise, it was the way everyone watched him. Silent, assessing, calculating. In Rikers, new arrivals were puzzles. Some were harmless. Some were prey. And some, without even knowing it, walked in carrying someone else's unfinished business. He kept his eyes low, the way inmates on his tier advised. A quick glance at the day room was enough to see why the officers hesitated to open the door earlier. The place felt split down in visible lines, groups clustered in corners, eyes darting, energy tight like stretched wire. Something had happened here. Something big. An older inmate, slim, gray at the temples, approached him at the orientation table. "You Malik?" he asked quietly. Malik nodded. "Name's Cortez," the man said. "I keep things steady around here. Don't talk loud, don't talk long, but listen close, today ain't a normal day." He slid a deck of cards out of habit, shuffling without looking. The man they wheeled out earlier, he wasn't random. He was waiting to testify about one of the officers. Said he'd seen something in the intake corridor last week, something about a use of force incident that didn't match the official report. Malik felt his chest tighten. "You saying they?" Cortez cut him off with a subtle shake of his head. "I'm saying keep your head down. Eyes open. Wrong question gets asked, wrong ear hears it, you disappear into paperwork." A group of younger inmates walked past, laughing too loud. Their laughter didn't match their eyes. Their eyes were alert, sharp, scanning. Malik could feel the temperature of the room shifting. An announcement crackled overhead, "All units, prepare for evening count." But the voice sounded strained, like whoever made the call was trying to hide tension under a layer of routine. Cortez leaned in. "Watch the guards tonight. They're spooked. When they get spooked, they tighten control. Random searches. Lights on checks. Anything to get ahead of whatever they think is coming." Malik exhaled slowly. "Coming?" Before Cortez could answer, the housing officer stepped in with two others. Their boots hit the tile with heavy intent. Radios clipped to their shoulders, hands already placed near their belts, not gripping anything, but close enough to send a message. "Tier lockdown," one of them announced. "Now." That single word, "now," carried more weight than the order itself. Doors slammed. Metal bars clanged. The entire unit shifted from restless movement to a frozen grid of cells. Inside his cell, Malik's heart pounded. He pressed his ear to the metal vent. Voices traveled through the ductwork, hurried, tense. "Admin wants everything quiet tonight. They said nothing leaves this building. We can't have the press sniffing around again." Again. That word hit him harder than the rest. This wasn't the first time something went wrong in Mod 3 East. It was a pattern. A system. A rhythm full of erased reports and sterile explanations. Lights flickered overhead. A cheap bulb buzzing like a warning. Malik stared at the ceiling, trying to piece together everything he'd overheard. The inmate who died, he wasn't just a victim of violence. He was a threat to someone higher up. And when threats didn't fit the narrative, the system found ways to silence them. Just as the thought settled, a sudden metallic bang echoed from somewhere 2 tiers above. Then another. Then the unmistakable sound of officers rushing in formation. A voice shouted, "On your bed. Everybody stay down." But there was another noise layered beneath the commands, whispering. Fast. Panicked. Passing through the vents like secrets trying to outrun the walls. Cortez's voice emerged faintly through the metal duct. "Malik, don't move. They're looking for someone." "For who?" Malik whispered back. He waited for an answer. Instead, he heard footsteps approaching his cell, slow, deliberate, stopping right at his door. Keys jingled. Then a voice he didn't recognize said quietly, "We need to talk." The lock clicked open. And before Malik could process the danger unfolding, the officer stepped inside, shutting the door behind him. The officer stepped into the cell with the careful posture of a man balancing courage and fear. His radio was turned down. His baton was holstered. His eyes kept drifting toward the hallway, as if he expected someone to appear without warning. "Malik," he said quietly, "I'm Officer Grant. Don't raise your voice. Don't stand up. We don't have long." Every instinct in Malik's body told him to stay still. Grant exhaled hard, shoulders sagging, like he was holding the weight of something he'd been afraid to say. "I saw what happened earlier. The man they took out. I was on duty. I heard things I shouldn't have heard." Malik's throat felt tight. "Why tell me?" "Because they're picking targets," Grant said. "Anyone who asks the wrong questions, anyone who might talk, they want them isolated. You came in at the wrong moment." He hesitated. "And someone flagged your file. Not for discipline. For removal from general population." "Removal?" Malik repeated. Grant didn't elaborate, but the silence said enough. The vent rattled softly as Cortez's voice traveled through it. "Grant," he whispered, "if you're in there, move fast. They're doing a hallway sweep." Grant nodded instinctively, even though he knew Cortez couldn't see him. "I'm trying." He stepped closer, voice low. The investigation this inmate was supposed to help with, it wasn't about a fight. It was about a pattern, excessive force, tampered surveillance, reports rewritten by supervisors. He had evidence. Emails. Officer statements. Things that shouldn't exist. Malik felt a cold ripple crawl up his spine. "And now," Grant continued, "Internal Affairs wants to shut everything down quietly. A transfer here, a missing file there, a rewritten timeline, that's how it's always been on this island." A sharp buzz sounded in the corridor. Grant stiffened. "They're coming. Listen carefully. Count times in 10 minutes. Don't talk to anyone. Don't ask questions. And whatever you do, do not go to the day room tonight." "Why?" Malik asked. Grant swallowed hard. "Because something has already been arranged." Before Malik could press further, the officer slipped out and closed the door. The lock clicked. His footsteps disappeared into the noise of the rushing tear. Malik sat on the edge of the bed, mind racing. Rikers was dangerous enough on a normal day. But now he was tangled in something bigger, the kind of story detainees whispered but never proved. He pressed his head back against the concrete. The vent hummed. "You heard him," Cortez's voice drifted through. "Stay put. The day room's a setup. They need a distraction to justify reshuffling the unit." Malik clenched his fists. "What about the man who died?" A pause. "That's the island," Cortez finally said. "Some truths don't make it past the gates." The tear lights dimmed, evening mode. Officers moved with unnatural quiet. Inmates sensed something was off. The tension wasn't loud, it was suffocating. Minutes crawled. Then a sudden shout erupted from the far end of the unit. Officers sprinted. Radios crackled. Doors slammed open. Something staged, yet treated like it wasn't. Malik stayed on his bed, heart pounding, listening to the chaos unfold without daring to stand. 15 minutes later, order returned. Or at least the version of order Rikers believed in. Cortez spoke again through the vent. "You made the right call. Whatever that was, someone's file just got rewritten." Malik stared at the floor. "This place isn't about justice." "No," Cortez said. "It's about containment. The truth gets locked up just like we do." The unit fell into an uneasy quiet. Somewhere deep inside the building, a door slammed, muffled but final, like a book being closed before the last chapter was written. Malik lay down, eyes open in the dim light, realizing that the island didn't just punish bodies. It punished truth. It punished hope. It punished anyone who tried to hold power accountable. In the morning, new officers would arrive. Paperwork would change. Stories would be rewritten. The system would roll on, untouched. But Malik would remember every second. And someday, when the right ears finally listened, the truth wouldn't be locked inside a vent, a cell, or an island anymore. If you think this story was intense, the next one will leave you speechless. Subscribe for more true crime stories that'll keep you on the edge of your seat.